You're building Zinnia wrong, and I half believe that. The other half of me just wanted you to click on that thumbnail. Yeah, I hate myself too. But now that you're here, let's check out this dope Zinnia deck tech. Now, the main thing I see people doing is going the Boros route, doubling up on all of their favorite Timmy red cards, smashing face, dealing a lot of damage, and that's all fine and dandy until you realize we also have blue. And blue's going to actually give us the ability to read cards. So we're going to use our newfound ability to read to take this a completely different route. We're going to build a creature storm list that deals 1,000 cuts to our opponents without ever needing to go to combat. Now, the thing we're going to need here is to actually gain mana whenever we cast creature spells, which kind of sounds insane until you realize Altec Matter Weaver is a card. All we have to do is get 3 of these in a treasure token on the battlefield, and then boom, whenever you cast a creature spell, you get 3 treasure tokens. And the average CMC of the deck is at 3, so that can cast most of your creature spells. Now, you might say, hey, it's Magical Christmas Land getting 3 Altec Matter Weavers on the battlefield, but Zinnia is our commander. So as long as we offspring our Altec Matter Weaver and then populate it, which is super easy in this deck, we're going to be able to generate a ton of treasure tokens whenever we're casting these creature spells. And I can see you saying, okay, another commander deck built around one creature that doesn't go in the command zone, but there's actually a ton of redundancy here and a lot of different ways to generate mana whenever we cast creature spells. It's just Altec Matter Weaver is the easiest to understand, and I'm talking to a bunch of Boros players that just learned how to read. So, bear with me. The next thing we need to do is tie in our damage effects and our card draw effects. Luckily, with one creature typing, we can get rid of both of those. We can use our Agate Instigator effects and then Curiosity effects. That way, whenever we're casting those creatures, generating those treasure tokens, they're actually dealing damage, and then whenever they deal damage, our Curiosity effects take place and we draw into more cards. Again, Creature Storm. Another thing that's going to be super powerful here is reducing the cost of our creatures. That way, we're not having to pay that additional offspring cost, so we can completely eliminate that. Now we're doubling up on our creatures, we're gaining mana whenever we're casting our creatures, we're cutting our opponents, destroying them with all of our Agate Instigate triggers, and we're drawing our entire deck. So if that sounds like a deck tech you guys want to get into, let's get into it. Almost forgot, shout out to you beautiful patrons, Newsome and Irrelevant, you guys rock. Let's kick it off by talking about how we're generating mana whenever we're casting those creature spells. Altec Matter Weaver, we already know this line, it's amazing in the deck. Rose Room is another solid way to generate those treasure tokens whenever we're casting those creature spells, and I'm aware it has a cap on it. We can only generate 2 treasure tokens with this thing, but that's assuming that we're not generating even more Roam Treasurers, right? Whenever we have cards like Song of the World Soul on the battlefield, it's going to be very easy to create multiple copies of Rose Room Treasurer whenever we're storming off and casting these creature spells. Ashnod's Altar is amazing in this deck as well. Whenever we're offspringing and creating a ton of creature tokens, it's just going to be very solid to sacrifice those. Not only is that going to make it easy to pay our offspring cost, it's also just an insanely stupid card that makes it to where we can generate an insane amount of mana very early in the game. Semblance Anvil is amazing here. We're just going to exile a creature under it, and then it's going to reduce all of our creature spells by 2. That's going to make all of our offspring costs free. So all we have to do is cast the original creature spell, and boom, we're going to get that offspring copy for free, essentially, right? Goldspan Dragon, really good here. We're going to get double value off of our treasure tokens, and then notably having 2 Goldspan Dragons to generate a ton of treasure tokens every turn is going to be amazing. They don't stack as far as the treasure tapping scenario is concerned, but just generating more treasures is good in this deck. A Thorion, Hero of Lava Brink. Now this guy can make it to where our not so impressive board state can win the game out of nowhere, right? Just creating 5 copies of Altec Matter Weaver, 5 copies of Goldspan Dragon can even do an insane of work here. Not to mention, we just win the game if we manage to get 5 copies of Terror of the Peaks. If you don't know, every Terror of the Peaks will see each other enter the battlefield, so you'll deal up to 125 damage to the table, split that up amongst 3 of your opponents, and everybody's dead. We're also running Song of the World Soul whenever we're casting our creature spells. We're generating more useful creatures because of that populate trigger. It's extremely broken. Saheeli seemed solid here, just doubling up on our most broken creature at the time. Nesting Dovehawk, also not okay in this deck. Not only does it get absolutely massive, but it does a pretty good Scute Swarm impression here, here. This is going to be the Bloomburrow side of the deck that just wants you to smash face. We're just going to keep creating more and more nesting Dovehawks until all of our opponents die. Or again, 3 Altec Matter Weavers. That can be a thing very easily with this as well. Cloudstone Curial is absolutely insane in this deck. We're going to return any creature we want to create another token copy of with our Offspring ability back to our hand and recast it. Now, I know that sounds expensive, but it's going to be worth it, and we can kind of make a really bad dockside here if we play cards like Altec Matter Weaver. What we do is we go ahead and cast Altec Matter Weaver. We're definitely going to Offspring it, return a creature to our hand, and then cast another creature spell. Now, assuming we have treasure tokens on the battlefield, we can generate more with our Altec Matter Weavers, and then we can return the original Altec Matter Weaver back to our hand. This allows us to recast it and then again get another Offspring copy. Eventually, your Altec Matter Weavers are going to be generating enough treasure tokens to not only pay for the creature returning to your hand, you'll also be able to pay for the Altec Matter Weaver and the Offspring cost, generating an infinite board state of Altec Matter Weavers and whatever other creature you're casting with it. Not to mention, you'll also have infinite treasure tokens. Some more token generation we're going to talk about real quick. We have Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Now, this is notably just in the deck so we can get reflections of Kiki Jiki and start creating token copies of our most broken creature. Determined Iteration, there's that populate ability again. Doorport Mage is also going to be amazing here. It's kind of a bad impression of a Cloudstone Curial, but it's doing its best. Not to mention we can Offspring this since it's a creature, so we can return up to 2 creature cards to our hand, draw 2 cards. Additionally, it can return itself with the Offspring copy, so you can keep making a massive board state of these Doorport Mages if that's the route you want to go. What's up, guys? I'm back to explain an interaction to you that I myself barely understand. Now, I understand it's boring to throw 2 cards up here and talk for 5 minutes, so I decided to throw 2 cards up here, talk for 5 minutes, but also include my face. Now, I understand that might be the same amount of boringness, but at least now we're suffering together. Now, let's get into it. And to go through this, I am going to be using a source that has a 50% correctness on this channel. Yes, I asked a judge on Reddit. Now, what we're talking about is the specific interaction with the replacement effects of Zorn and Academy Manufacturer. You almost never have 2 of these on the battlefield, but it turns out when your commander has Offspring, that happens all of the time. So these weird interactions that we normally never have to deal with, we have to deal with here. So I'm going to explain them to you. The first thing, let's talk about 2 Zorns on the battlefield. Now, Zorn says if you create 1 treasure token, generate 2 instead. So with 2 on the battlefield, what you're going to do is you're going to stack both those triggers. The first one goes off, boom, you got 2 treasure tokens, and then the next one goes off and you have 3 treasure tokens. Now, the other Zorn is not going to see that Zorn trigger because replacement effects do not interact together, right? So you're not going to go and ping pong and generate infinite treasure tokens. That would be busted. Now, let's throw Academy Manufacturer into the mix. Now, we all know we just generated 3 treasure tokens, so we're going to turn all of those treasure tokens into 3 treasure tokens, 3 food tokens, and 3 clue tokens. And then let's go ahead and throw the other Academy Manufacturer in the deck, and it's pretty simple from here. I was told that with 2 Academy Manufacturers, all you have to do is times it by 3. So now that we have 3 treasure tokens, we have 3 food tokens, and we have 3 clue tokens, all we have to do is times that by 3, and we end up with 9 treasures, 9 food, and 9 clues. Thank you for watching. The next thing I want to set up is getting our card draw engine online. These are our Agate Instigators, our Molten Gatekeepers, our Witty Roastmasters, and our Terror of the Peaks effects. Then all you're going to need after that is an Ophidian Eye, Curiosity, or even Tandem Lookout. Notably, Tandem Lookout's a creature, so you can Offspring it and get 2 of its effect. Kind of amazing here. We also are on cards like Hedron Detonator, Reckless Fireweaver. That way, whenever we're generating those treasure tokens or treasure tokens are entering the battlefield, we can also ping our opponents. This is just going to be more creatures that we can enchant with our Ophidian Eye and Tandem Lookout effects. Garson Starn is also going to get an inclusion in this deck. Just tripling up on all of our pinging damage is amazing. And then again, we can easily slot in an Ophidian Eye effect on this guy, and he's going to draw us a ton of cards. Recruiter of the Guard and Imperial Recruiter are insane cards because either of these can not only grab our Witty Roastmaster or our Agate Instigator effects, additionally, both of them can grab Tandem Lookout. So if we Offspring Imperial Recruiter or Recruiter of the Guard, not only are we going to be able to search up our damage source, but we're also going to be able to search up our card draw engine. Plus, one of them can even search up our Altec Matter Weaver. These are incredible inclusions in the deck. Pain Distributor is also going to be in the deck. It's probably the worst thing to put your Tandem Lookout effects on. It's still going to be amazing in the deck. Just keep in the back of your head, though, that your opponent is going to get to decide when you draw the cards, not you, so that can be a huge fact. Alright, I know you Boros players are probably bored with all of this combo talk, but let's talk about the face-smashing portion of the deck, the part that you guys are waiting for. Brutaclad is amazing in this deck. We're generating treasure tokens, creature tokens, and then being able to turn all of those tokens into our most broken token can just win us the game out of nowhere. Sky Hunter is one of these broken tokens. Not only is it a low to the ground creature and very easy to offspring, melee is also a super underrated ability that's pretty broken. Just with 2 instances of melee, as long as we're attacking all 3 of our opponents, that's +6 to every single creature, and it only gets more insane from there, especially when we add Brutaclad to the equation, right? Illustrious Wanderglyph, also insane. It comes out, it generates a massive board state, and then if we have Brutaclad out and we turn all of those gnome tokens we created into Illustrious Wanderglyphs, if we don't win that turn, we're going to win the very next turn. Because remember, Illustrious Wanderglyph gives all of your other artifact creatures +2/+2, and it itself is an artifact creature. So we're talking about some massive Illustrious Wanderglyphs here, and then if you do pass the turn, I feel sorry for your opponent because you're going to be making a massive board state very quickly. Professional Facebreaker, amazing here as well. This can kind of be a game ender in the deck as well. If we have a big enough board state of tokens or treasure tokens and we turn all of those tokens into Professional Facebreakers, that's going to net us an insane amount of triggers and an insane amount of treasure tokens. And the Professional Facebreaker is an outlet for those treasure tokens. So not only do we generate a massive amount of treasure tokens, we can kind of start drawing into the cards we need to close out the game. Moving on to the miscellaneous good stuff, we have Prosperous Partnership. This is amazing. We can just tap down our untapped creatures to generate treasure tokens. Remember, this isn't an aggro deck, so we're not attacking all of the time. Delny is also kind of messed up here. The vast majority of our deck is very low power creatures, and we're not trying to buff them up until we're trying to win the game, right? So she's going to make it to where everything basically doubles up. All of our Agate Instigator triggers, all of our Altec Matter Weaver triggers, even some niche stuff like Saheeli Sun's Brilliance gets doubled. It's kind of just an insane card in this deck. Fairy Mastermind comes down early and provides consistent card advantage, especially if we offspring it. Aerial Extortionist is going to be the bane of our opponent's existence. Not only can we offspring it and get 2 on the battlefield, that's just going to slow them down at an exponential rate, especially when they can't realistically keep casting everything we exile. Smothering Tithe and Wheels because we're not good people. This is just amazing in these storm strategies where you run out of your hand. You can easily just wheel into more cards, and then if you so happen to have Smothering Tithe on the battlefield, you're going to generate enough treasure tokens to win the game. Especially if you have any of those damage dealers on the battlefield that care about artifacts entering the battlefield. Yeah, that's going to probably kill the table. I'm also including the Reaver Cleaver here because our Commanders actually gets pretty massive, and he already has flying, which is a form of evasion. Not to mention the Reaver Cleaver is going to additionally give him trample. So our Commander is actually going to be providing a lot of value here. Cavern Horde Dragon just generates treasure tokens, not to mention his casting cost gets reduced. So let's say one of our opponents does have upwards to 9 artifacts. Not crazy with those affinity decks. This is just going to be 2 red, and you're also going to get the offspring version of it as well, and then you're going to generate an insane amount of treasure tokens. That's going to do it for the deck tech, guys. I'll leave the full deck list linked in the description down below. Make sure you look at it before commenting where's the removal. It's in the deck list. I'm just not going to bore you guys with it. With that being said, I do want to shout out my high contributing patrons, Newsome, Irrelevant, Excessum, Chicken Salad, and Praetor. You guys are amazing. As always, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you guys in the next one.